It's great to have you with us. Now, Ghana's COVID-19 case count is showing an uptick in recent days. As of July 13, 2021, 812 persons had died from COVID-19. 27 persons had been recorded to be in severe conditions, with 12 patients in critical condition. The active cases currently stand at 2,858, with 1,000 cases recorded in 2 weeks. Let's look at the regional distribution of the cases as provided on the Ghana Health Service website. The major hotspot continues to be the Greater Accra region, followed closely by the Ashanti region, and then we have the rest of the regions of the country distributed as you see there on the map. The number to look at really is the number of new cases. 382 new cases recorded in a single day. That goes back to 2020 level figures, telling us only one thing, that the third wave we've been talking about is upon us. Now, a virologist with KCCR, Dr. Michael Owusu, wants government to institute measures to avert a third wave of infections.
Time that most people seem to have disregarded these COVID protocols, funerals ongoing, large gatherings ongoing. It's expected that government will begin to refer to the strategic document in managing and controlling pandemic like was done earlier. So you will expect government to begin to put in some level of restrictions, especially for numbers at large gatherings, whether funeral or parties or church gatherings or many activities, which is what is contributing actively to this. Initially, we had some restriction in numbers, but I mean, it's not working anymore. People just don't care anymore. So I think that we should expect some pronouncement from government and also for the police to come in to help us to be able to manage this. If this is not done quickly, it is likely that we may end to a point where reversing people who are becoming infected and people who become severely ill will be very difficult. And I think we will need some level of direction at this point to guide the way people are managing themselves and people are behaving.
And that's Dr. Michael Owusu. He's the virologist as the KCCR. Now, of course, this third wave of cases has been occasioned by the entry into the country of the dreaded Delta variant. Now, this Delta variant is already wreaking havoc in India, UK, and in South Africa, which have been known hotspots of the disease. Now, Ghana recorded its first cases of this Delta variant late last month into this month, soon after which we started seeing a rapid increase in numbers, especially an increase in number of infections per day. It's now up to 382. It is unclear whether or not government would impose any further restrictions outside of what has been imposed already, but health experts have been advising that the public is extra careful and government ensures that these safety protocols are followed. Of course, the question of vaccinations is also very important at this point. What the health experts have been telling us is that if you've been vaccinated, it's possible that you will not get a severe form of this disease, but it does not bar infections totally. Of course, the most important question, however, when it comes to vaccines has been that in a population of close to 35 million, we have less than 500,000 persons who have been fully vaccinated, having received both jabs. And so that's also another question that remains to be answered. We're still keeping an eye on this story, but we stay with vaccines, and the probe into the SPUTNIK V vaccine procurement saga continues this morning. Parliamentary correspondent Joseph Opoku-Gakpo joins us live with more. First, Joe, let's do a quick recap of what last week's hearing captured before zooming into today's session.
And so last week, the Minister for Health, Kwame Menu, appeared before the committee, but it was for a very short duration because we gathered that he was going for a cabinet retreat. And essentially, a number of issues came up at the sitting. There are two different contracts with middlemen that were actually signed in order to allow them to supply vaccines. One is with a firm called SOARING Global. The minister admitted that that company has breached the terms and conditions and that they were supposed to supply the vaccines, but that contract is still under review. But the second one involving Sheikh Maktoum, who is a businessman based in the Middle East, who was bringing in COVID-19 SPUTNIK vaccine at a cost of $19 per dose. He was bringing in about a little over 3 million doses, and that contract was signed earlier in the year. The indication from him is that he's actually written to government to terminate that particular contract by virtue of the fact that he's not been able to raise the said vaccines in order to supply to the government of Ghana. The minister disclosed that on the 14th of July, which was just a day before the minister appeared before the probe committee, Sheikh Maktoum had actually written to the government of Ghana to cancel that particular contract. We're expecting that today as well, there'll be a lot of focus on that. But one of that disclosure that was made by the minister was an admission that he actually breached the requirements in the constitution that require that when it comes to international business transactions, parliamentary approval is needed before contracts are signed. He admitted that he hadn't sought the necessary parliamentary approval before going ahead to sign that particular contract with the Sheikh who is based in the Middle East. So those were some of the disclosures that came up at the sitting last.
Right. So who is expected today during the sitting?
The health minister is expected back today during the sitting just this morning. We are expecting him to walk in any moment from now. A lot of the committee members, particularly on the minority side, actually desisted from asking him substantive questions when he appeared last week Thursday, because then they said that they thought the issues that they had required a bit more time to deal with. A lot of the questions were posed to the health minister by the majority side. So we get the indication that those on the minority side would have this morning to then ask their questions of him, because then there are questions about whether any sanctions will apply now that the termination has happened. Again, there'll be questions to him as to how come he didn't seek the necessary parliamentary approval before going ahead to sign the contract. And there are a lot of other outstanding issues, because then the Sheikh in question had actually supplied 20,000 doses of the SPUTNIK vaccines to Ghana in order to allow for the nation to do the necessary testing with it. So there are questions about what happened to those 20,000, whether they will be taken back, whether government would have to pay for it one way or the other. The minister insisted that no money had been paid to the Sheikh and that only letters of credit had actually been issued to him, but that they were very clear with the banks that unless the doses are supplied, the banks that the letters of credit had been issued to shouldn't go ahead and pay any money. So the minister said no money had been paid, but as to whether any possible money could be paid for the 20,000 doses that were supplied for the necessary trials and testing is something that we are expecting the health minister to respond to at the sitting today. And then we are told that most likely later in the week, officials of the Ghana Health Service as well will also appear to come respond to questions.
But do we know if officials of the company in question, that is Sheikh Dalmouk Al Maktoum's company, will appear before the committee?
That was a question that I put to some of the leaders on the committee, and the explanation they gave was that for now they are dealing with government officials who superintended the signing of the said contract in question. If they have all the answers that they need from them and they are clear in their minds that they can reach any specific conclusions based on the details that these officials give them, there will not be the need to go ahead and invite any external parties, which is why they are starting with the health minister himself, because then he superintended the signing of the contract. He is the sector minister. He's supposed to have all the necessary details. If after engaging him by close of day today, the committee members think that there are outstanding issues that require further clarification from any second or third body or any other individual, those decisions will be taken. But the time for them to do their work is fast taken. They were given 3 weeks. We've gone past the first week already. This Friday will be the second week. They have the option to request an extension from the House, but for now they say they're working within that time frame, and they're waiting to finish the engagement today with the health minister to then determine whether they need any other individual or official before them to respond to further questions.
That's exactly what I wanted to know next. So does that mean then that next week they are presenting a report to the House, or next week they are ending the public sittings?
they are supposed to have their report ready by the close of next week. By next week, Friday, their full report should be ready and submitted to the plenary for the necessary action to be taken. So then the expectation is that throughout this week, they will be using the duration throughout this week to go ahead and probably finalize their public hearing. And then most likely next week, if there needs to be any in-camera sessions or the putting together of their report, then they would go ahead and do that. And to mention this, there's a whole pack of documents that the health minister actually submitted to the committee members sometime last week. He got a notice to appear before the committee with details of the third contract in question, the third report that actually gave him the basis to then engage the individual. He indicated that communication had gone to the Public Procurement Authority to request permission for single sourcing as far as these contracts are concerned. All of those are documents that were submitted last week to the committee, and those are the issues that the committee is relying on in coming to this decision.
Now, finally, Joseph, I want to get a quick update on the referral of Kennedy Japan to the Privileges Committee of Parliament. Has that moved forward in any way?
What we know is that it's not likely that the first meeting of the committee to decide on the modalities as far as the way forward is concerned will actually happen anytime this week. We've been told that no planned sitting of the committee has been set for this week. The chairman of the committee himself, Joseph, who hasn't been around the whole of last week, any possible progress will most likely happen from next week going, after which the committee will decide on the modalities and whether it will be a public probe and who will appear before the public probe.
Thank you very much, Joseph Opoku-Gakpo, for joining us. He is our parliamentary correspondent, bringing us updates on the SPUTNIK V probe in Parliament. Thanks for staying with us on JoyNews Desk. With me, Daniel Dazin. Our prices of maize, among several other food products, have increased astronomically across the Techiman Central Market over the past few months. A bag of maize, which was sold at 160 Ghana cedis in July 2020, is now being sold at between 375 Ghana cedis this year. Traders and sellers are attributing the hike in prices to the scarcity of the commodity, coupled with the high transportation costs as traders travel to neighboring countries in search of the commodity. My colleague Anna Sabit has been engaging some of these traders and now reports.
Maize prices have skyrocketed to a record high here at the Techiman Central Market here in the Bono East region. A bag of maize, which is being sold at 160 Ghana cedis in July 2020, currently is being sold at 375 Ghana cedis. This, according to the traders here, is heavily affecting their businesses as they have to travel to neighboring countries to buy maize to be sold here at the Techiman Central Market. Secretary to the Techiman Maize Sellers Association, Nana Obri Yeboah, says the hike in prices is being fueled by two factors: the lack of rains and the switch to cashew plantation by farmers in the area.
Last year, there is not enough rains. The rains race through the upper west, upper east, the northern side. That's the 1 point. And then when it comes to Bonahafo and then Ashanti region, most of the farmers now they are using their lands for cashew growing and has left only small portions of lands. That's why here we don't have enough maize.
The hike has also affected a lot of these traders here, as some of them are currently out of business because they need huge sums of money to be able to travel to neighboring countries to buy this maize. So a number of them are currently out of business, leaving only a few who have enough money to be able to embark on these journeys. Da Emmanuel is the treasurer of the Techiman Maize Sellers Association. We travel long distances to get the commodity, and due to the high travel costs, some sellers are currently out of business because they can't afford the transportation cost.
into see how are the bread?
Now, if you don't have enough money, you can't travel to long distances to buy, and as a result, a lot of us are out of business. Aside the fact that these sellers go through a lot of struggles to get the commodity to sell, they also risk losing their monies to fraudsters and sometimes to armed robbers. Nana Manyakun shares what they go through with JoyNews. We travel to Burkina Faso and sometimes beyond, and this has contributed to the hike in prices. And we face a lot of risks, including armed robbery attacks. We are sometimes deceived by fraudsters, and when we get there, they run away with our monies. All these contribute to the hike in prices.
They therefore call on government as well as stakeholders in the maize industry to come to their aid, but at least supporting them with loans which will keep them in business going forward.
We need government's intervention, at least. If we are given soft loan to support our trades, the prices may be stabilized.
What we need
right now is a little support from authorities. We struggle a lot in search of loans. Though we have all the business documents, we still don't get any support, not even much. If we get some support, things may not turn out this way.
Unless government come in and import some maize to Ghana, so that the players of the poultry farmers they can continue their work. If they all stop their work, then we are in trouble.
So this has been the situation here at the maize market, here at the Techiman Central Market. My name is Assoc, reporting for JoyNews.
We stay with food prices, and is your bowl of kinky shrinking in recent times? Well, if it is indeed the case, then it's because of the soaring prices of maize, as we've discussed in that earlier story. Let's explore this subject a bit further. Charles NYAABA is with the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana. He joins us on the line. Mr. NYAABA, thanks for joining us. So, what's happening with maize?
Thank you so much, Dan. I think it's not only maize, but we can focus on maize for now. The reason why we are seeing a drastic increase in maize prices across the country has to do with what happened in 2020. Remember last year around this time, the COVID started, and then there were restricting the movement of goods and services. Apart from that, coupled with problems with the financial crisis, most farmers couldn't actually get credit to do their farming activity. And we indicated last year that if nothing is done about it, we are likely to face food crisis. Coupled with that, our neighboring countries, Niger, Burkina Faso, Togo, came in their numbers to also buy maize from Ghana. So all of this actually led to shortage of maize in the system. I had the privilege of supplying maize to some poultry farmers, and for the past 1 month, it has been very difficult for all of us. The maize is not even there. So the few who have been able to store their maize at this time are those who are selling it at that price. So it's a problem that we all need to handle as a country.
So with what you're saying, it's a combination of the restrictions of movements during the COVID era?
Yes, please. In addition to the drought that happened at the early part of the season last year, and then the flooding that happened around September and October the same year. So there were a couple of factors that actually hit us last year. And going forward, I think we gave a series of recommendations which were not, or which most of them were not hit to. And then we hope that if, we are thinking that if measures are not put in place, we are likely to have the same thing occurring in 2021.
Right, because I was just curious because last year when the movements were restricted, it was done in just Kumasi and Accra, and maize is sold, is farmed largely outside of these two major urban centers?
It's not entirely the case, because the movement of restriction, you know, there was also movement of people coming from the neighboring countries to Ghana. You know, these days labor is a problem. Most of us get our labor from neighboring Burkina Faso and Togo. So all those things actually impacted on our activity. And then also the ban on the importation of commodities, which includes agricultural machinery, inputs, and what have you. All that also impacted on the production last year.
Mr. NYAABA, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Can I just add a point?
Yes, please do.
Yeah, so drawing from this experience, we have a fear that looking at what is happening this year in terms of farmers' access to inputs, specifically fertilizer, if we don't quickly address it now, the situation is likely to be bad by the end of the year. Because this is a time that we need the input supply. Last year we stated that and we never listened to. And now it is all coming. So we are just appealing to government that they should quickly do something. As we are going to read the mid-year budget, something should come out so that money will go to pay fertilizer importers so that they can quickly supply fertilizer to the farmers.
Right. Thank you very much, Charles NYAABA, for joining us on News Desk.